Yeah, okay, today is the January 19th. Let's start from this one. So it's our regular SIG Node meeting. I just want, before everything we go with our agenda, I just want to say that Alala, Sergey, and Derek, we discussed last week and briefly, but separately, and talk about build a new bug triage process, but it's not finalized yet. And but we already see that like the Alala and Sergey already started doing this a while back. So, but we just want to have the build of official process. So we have like everyone, the whole community can contribute and help their effort. So I just would touch base a little bit this one, but we are going to brought this topic for further discussing and finalize process. So now let's go to our regular agenda. Sergey, do you want to start the topic, today's topic?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we keep doing a good work keeping PRs down, so we are not growing on PRs. Last week we merged one of the PRs in a test from a test group that broke other tests, like it was fixing one test and broke another one. So thank you everybody involved for quick turnaround and fixing it. Anyway, this week out of closed PRs, there is only 2 rotten ones, and one of them requires cap, so likely, like, you may want to take a look at it, but it's not that critical. Another one is fixing bugs, so you may want to pick up if you're interested. Anyway, other than that, good work. Just keep making progress. It's great. And I could go with the next item as well. So for KubeCon maintainers track, me and Ilana suggested that we can do an overview of SIG Node, and this is a virtual event, so it will be recording only. I mean, virtual only, so no actual presence. There will be discussions in Slack as usual. If you want to participate in setting an agenda for maintainers track session, we think that the good idea would be to overview some caps that ongoing or plan to be implemented. We can definitely include this into recording and work together. So please reach out to me or Ilana if you want to participate and help to bring more community to SIG Node.
Yeah, I think we need to get the proposal in by February 7th or something like that. So the sooner the better.
And with that, go to the next item. Ilana, it's you.
Oh, I guess it's me. Here, let me share my screen. I had 2 items sort of in a row that are kind of related. I have been doing a bunch of triage stuff to try to get an idea of where we are at with SIG Node things. And can everyone see my screen? Great. Okay, so I have 2 things on here. So one is the non-CI PR board, because we already have a project board for the CI subgroup, and then like a kept triage spreadsheet that I had been tasked to do, not last meeting, but the meeting before, but we didn't get a chance to review this last week because the agenda ran long. So I just wanted to show people. So this is what I've put together for the SIG Node PR triage board. So I have sort of, I think 5 columns here. I can't count. And so each column hopefully has a description of like what needs to happen on that PR to give people a better idea. Like when they go sit down, they're like, okay, I want to review some PRs for SIG Node. Like where that PR is at, what action is needed. And so anything that has like a do not merge, needs okay to test, like there's some sort of labels on the PR that says there's like something wrong with it. I initially throw in this triage bucket just to be able to give them a first pass, close them if they're not applicable, fix the problems with them, and get them ready for review. If there's anything that's waiting on the author, such as, they've been given feedback and they need to make changes, or it's a work in progress, or it's on hold for some reason, because they've been given feedback, I put that into this waiting and author column. if it needs a reviewer, so somebody actually needs to go sit down, look at the PR, put an LGTM on it. I've put it in this needs reviewer column. You'll note that I haven't been like doing anything with the needs triage labels because I wanted to get a chance to discuss that like with a wider group before I started sort of unilaterally applying labels. But I think maybe once things go out of this like triage column, we can put the like triage accepted labels on them. And then that way, everything that's not in the needs triage column will have that label, and we won't worry about it. We know they've been triaged, they have priority and all that set. But that's sort of this group of things. They don't have LGTMs on them, but they're ready for review. This column needs approver. They do have LGTMs on them, and now they just need a /approve on them because there's a much smaller group that can do a /approve than an LGTM. And then this final column here is done. So that's anything that's been closed, anything that's been merged. And sometimes I'll throw things into done if they have an LGTM and an approve from someone in Node, but they need another approval. So it's like no longer our problem. So this is kind of what, and this done column is nice because I can actually like automate things going into it. The rest of them, GitHub's automation is not very sophisticated, so I've been doing them kind of manually. And I guess you may ask, how do things get onto this board? I mentioned the automation is not great, and the answer is I have this query which basically looks at all the PRs, checks if they're open, checks if they have a SIG Node label, and then make sure that they're not part of the testing subgroup. And then I can go and add them to the various columns. Like that one needs release node, I'll throw that into needs triage. This one has an LGTM and it's just a typo, so maybe I'll throw that in the approver column. And then this one looks like it needs a reviewer. And this one I think is, a dependency thing. It's got like 20 million SIGs on it. I think I keep taking SIG Node off of it and it keeps getting reapplied, so I will just ignore that one. So that's kind of an overview of the board. And so I've been using this to help, since I put this board together, it's been helping me keep a track of like, well, what PRs do I need to review as a SIG Node reviewer? What things need approvers, that kind of thing. And so since I think I have like started this board, close this, we now have like 35 things in the done column and like more things in the needs approver column than needs reviewer, which is kind of exciting. So basically initial pass on reviews are no longer the bottleneck, which is cool. I guess I've been talking about this board for a while, but hopefully that's a good overview. Do people have any questions about this?
Just a small comment. It would be great to drive the number of PRs down, and in this case, it wouldn't be such a tedious job to keep the board up to date. So hopefully we can make it to manageable numbers.
Yeah, I'm hoping that, I mean, honestly, I haven't found it too tedious to keep the board up to date. We do have pretty large numbers of PRs right now, but when I started working on this board, I think there were like 40 things in the needs reviewer column, and now it's down to 20. So that's a lot more manageable. And as we keep driving things down, I think it will become more and more manageable. So we may even be able to ask Kube infra folks for help, like they may be able to add some automation on top of this for us, so like they can just do an automatic label check, because I know that that doesn't come in the native thing, but I think that you can add that on top of GitHub projects as part of like the API. So
I think Lori Apple from she's all over the project. She has a lot of kind of guidelines and tips for triaging for triage workflows that SIGs can use. So you can reach out to her on Slack if you.
Oh yeah, her and I have been in contact. I showed her this board and she was thrilled about it. So
yeah, I've worked with her too. She's great.
Hi, Ilana. One additional thing here. Could we do this as a group every week? Other than outside of this meeting.
I would love to. So I would love to propose that. Right now, we currently have the CI subgroup meeting on Mondays, and it's currently scheduled for an hour. But in my experience, like over the past month, we usually only use the first half hour of that meeting for the CI stuff. So I'm wondering if maybe we could like set half of that meeting to be like general node triage. Now you may note I have not talked about any of the bugs. I think the bug situation in Node is like quite a bit more difficult to work with. I've been talking to Lori about how we might get like through some of that backlog, because there's about 500 bugs open against SIG Node right now. I have some ideas, but it's less like, sort of critical, I think, in the short term. So, but I think in the short term, it would be great to basically add this as a section to the CI meeting. But I know that it's maybe at a time that not everyone can attend right now. So I don't know if that's something we need to consider moving.
So the themes, this is exactly what I brought up at the beginning of the meeting. We are still discussing of the formal process, how to do. So we do feel like the Derek and I all both feel we should have like the normal process to do the bug triage. And CI actually prove make a huge progress, CI project in the past couple months. And also right now it's in the healthy state. So we think about at another meeting, maybe it is too much for a community like us. And also there's the concern people raised, they are worried about. So that's why Alec and I, Alila and Derek, and when we discuss separately, we think about maybe we can combine this one with the CI project. But they also have other concerns. People worry about because literally people want to talking about the feature, right? And beyond feature, people want to talk about my product issues. So, and nobody really want to talk about testing. So what's the best way to balance all this kind of effort? We also don't want to like there's the one concern where I ask behind people's thoughts about this one. Another concern people raise, they worry about make the too generic SIG Node meeting, 2 weeks. In my current idea, initially when I talked to Alila, I will want to keep this meeting more focused on the enhancement, feature, discussing, design review, API review at the node level, and also critical bug, which is the bug triage cannot make decision. So bring up to here. Instead right now it's like the more loose managed format, like any issue, no matter how critical it is, and bring here and say, oh, ask for review. And so we have this strategy, and also we have the PR triage board can hugely help and reduce those kind of things. So then in that meeting, we can focus on the bug triage and the PR triage, and also testing status checking and triage. So we haven't finished finalized status, and also like Alila said, like I believe both Derek and I have a little bit trouble to attend the Monday meeting, like the time conflicts. So we we don't want to like have another meeting. Then we said, oh, still bring to SIG Node.
Right. So the thing is, we don't need everybody to be attending that meeting. This is the big meeting. So this is kind of like the SIG architecture where we divide things into sub-projects and say, okay, each sub-project go do something and then come back to us to report, right? So I think, so I would like to think of this like that. You delegate. In this case, all I was telling Ilana was, you're doing it by yourself. Can we do it together, right? So it doesn't have to be everybody, but a set of people who are interested in doing this triage can hop in. It doesn't take anything away from the technical leads or the chairs, right? It's more of like, how do we keep track of this board, right? That was what I was thinking here, Don.
And I would love to be able to like say, we've got this designated time, it's the second half hour of the like weekly CI meeting agenda. And like, here's our policy for how each column on the board works. And like anybody can kind of come in and like review a PR or, approve a PR if they're an approver or that kind of thing. And I have been encouraging some folks and sharing the board who've been interested in getting more involved in SIG Node, like, hey, why don't you go take a look at the triage column, make sure that the PR is okay to test, that, like all of these do not merges are addressed. And then, when it's ready, you can either give it a quick look over, or if you don't feel comfortable with it, move it to the needs reviewer column. So it would be great to like have that all written down, super public, and give people an opportunity to be able to contribute. Although I do worry somewhat that then what we're going to find is that we will just be super blocked on reviewer and approver time.
Which is a good thing, Elana, because we are like winnowing the wheat from the chaff, right? So then the approvers can only focus on the things that they need to look at a minimum, right?
Yep, for sure.
So let's continue on this one. This is really great, and let's finalize that process. And I think that at least from the Derek and I, Derek cannot attend to it, so we briefly exchange our thoughts before this one. So we want to have the formal process, and we want to more people in the community and have the way to communicate, and so we want velocity. So basically, we hope this year we can achieve some of the review velocity and give the community developer better experience. And so that's the general goal, at least the general goal from me and the director. And but we need the earlier I share some concern that's with from other people. So then I want to also make sure we are like the one make sure we are kind of like the understand their concern more, and then finalize this kind of things and find a way to satisfy our great goal here.
Yes, that sounds good to me. Are we good with basically like tabling this for the next CI subgroup meeting and saying like that's where we'll continue this discussion in terms of formalizing this?
So
that'll be next Monday.
I'm not sure if audience will be right, but we can say that the second half will be about triage. Just to make sure that everybody who came just for testing wouldn't be surprised.
Yes. Sounds good to me.
Cool.
I'll put a note.
Okay, Elena, do you want to? I think you cover both topics here.
Yes. Well, and then I guess I have this KEP spreadsheet, which hopefully will be pretty quick. So since our last meeting, 2 meetings ago, I went through the KEPs repo and tried to get like an idea of where all of the KEPs in SIG Node were at, what state they're at. And we have a lot of them that are kind of like stalled, or they're like, there's a proposal, but they haven't been approved or merged, or some of them are just an issue. There's no KEP or proposal associated at all. And so I've been trying to put them all in the spreadsheet, and I'm sure I'm missing some right now because there were a bunch that I put in Slack and I put a hold on them because they didn't have an associated tracking issue. And if there's no issue in the enhancements repo, then the enhancements team and the leads of SIG Node can't track them either. So this is just mostly what I put together. I'm hoping that it's accurate. And I think anybody in the SIG Node group can edit this if you want to. But basically, if you have like a stalled KEP or a proposed KEP or something like that with your name attached to it, I'm just hoping that like you can take a look at that and say like, hey, you know, this one, for example, the dynamic kubelet configuration, there was sort of a call that we should just deprecate that. But like for a bunch of these other stalled ones, we haven't made a decision on them. Like, do we want to deprecate them? Do we think they're still a good idea and want to move forward with them? I don't know. The new enhancements process is going to require the SIGs to take all of their KEPs to the release team and say what they're working on for the next release, rather than the release team tracking everything historically that's existed, which is previously what they've been doing. So I guess we kind of have to have our ducks in a row to do that. So this is just the pre-work that I have done to try to keep track of that.
Thanks for the figure out the current status. I think a lot of stored, maybe it's just make of the reviewer. Sometimes just make the people move project. But some of them, at least I can say that may not represent of the current status. Like we talk about, for example, in the debug part, I saw that one is the stored, but actually Oh, I misread. It's not stored, it's better. But for the Kubernetes resource metrics endpoint, at least I talked to the David Dashboard, and he would like to move forward with that one. He will own that one and move forward. So
yeah. I've also spoken with him on that one. So not to get too bogged down in the weeds on specific ones, but this is like the status is set according to what is said in the issue. So it's possible that got out of date. But those issues like, oh, I don't have a release set for this. I don't have a release set for this. I don't have a release set for this. And so when I see that, I have just marked them as stalled. It doesn't necessarily mean the person doesn't want to work on them. It's just we have to figure out what to do with them.
Okay, so maybe we should, the next step is figure out not from the cap, figure out the status. We want to figure out the feature current, real current status, and also our desired state for that feature, right? So obviously, like for example, dynamic Kubernetes config, it is absolutely stored. And we also don't want to move forward. So we clearly have our desired state set there. But currently deprecate that feature, it is stored. We basically no dependency. I believe at least we call out, we want deprecate of that feature, and we believe nobody using. And that feature, partial of the feature already being utilized by the community, many people. And the Kubernetes component config, it is being there. So it's kind of half served that purpose already. And but we stored by the link of the people working on deprecate that feature. So that's kind of current real process, real status. So we can, maybe we could, not today, today is to have a lot of agenda. Maybe we can work on like every week, and we discuss some stored, some project, a stored project. If we don't know who is going to be owner, current owner, and so then we can discuss and figure out who going to be on and who is the reviewer, and so move forward.
Yeah, that would be great. I think Runal did a really good job at putting together sort of the what do we want to do for 121 document, which is sort of a like a smaller slice of this one. This is more for the long-term view of like, okay, this is everything on the list. There's a lot of stuff that just kind of stuck. What do we do about those? We don't necessarily have to do it now. We can sort of slowly work through this over time, but this is just intended to be a starting point, especially given sort of how we're moving in terms of, SIGs have to manage their own caps, including even like picking the ones that they want for a given release, and making sure that because we have so many, that we're actually tracking all of them and everything is represented here. So that was the goal of this, and hopefully, if your name's on here and you own a cap, hopefully it's in a good state, and we can figure out how to move forward with it, not necessarily today, but at some point. And I think enhancements freeze for this release is upcoming on, I think, the 9th of February, sometime that week. So it's soon. So just wanted to give everybody the heads up in advance.
Thanks. I hope we can maintain this one in the SIG Node community, make that is up to date, put it on the top of our agenda. So next, at least every quarter we can review this one and update this one, and add the new proposal and the new suggestion and here. Yeah. Okay. So let's move to next topic. Ryan, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah. So Alana, Harshal, and I have been looking at this issue at Red Hat, where the problem statement is when a pod is being created, the sandbox is in the creation state, and then when it gets deleted, the pod does. And so errors happen in that instance when that scenario happens. And so we're seeing this JSON message EOF that on the issue. And in some cases, I believe the pod doesn't restart as well. But basically with Cryo and systemd and how the kubelet is working, this race condition exists. And I think it's mostly due to the kubelet not knowing how to reconcile state when a sandbox is starting and when it's torn out from under it. And I was wondering if anyone on the meeting had seen this before, have any recommendations on what to do, etc.
I did see this problem a lot at earlier. Before we have the CI, but after we had CI, I hadn't heard this problem. Maybe because people didn't report the problem, and people over the problem. But I do see this a lot at the earlier Kubernetes development.
So I have a suspicion as to why we're not seeing this a lot. And the suspicion is so basically what it looks like to me is we have like a go routine, like a sync loop in the kubelet, and we have a separate one in the kube runtime manager. And they are not synced. Like the critical sections are not synced. So we're running into basically race conditions where there are assumptions made about the state of things, but the state changes from underneath them. And so we've got these time of check to time of use bugs where like you checked it earlier in this sync loop, but this other sync loop is still going. And now it's changed from under you and the pod's gone, but you're still trying to create the sandbox, which is resulting in like kind of this spread. The reason that I don't think we're necessarily seeing this on a wider spread basis is this is all in the kube runtime. And I think the majority of Kubernetes users are still using Docker shim, which is a totally different code path. They're not going through any of this code. So we're only really seeing this on like Cryo and the other runtimes going through there.
Ilana, I was looking through it because you pinged me before the meeting. So two pieces of information. One is the JSON, the file closing thing seems to come from Cryo. That's one. And the second one is I was looking for the prefix create pod sandbox for pod in our aggregated logs, and I don't see it either. Our upstream CI does have a whole bunch of containerd stuff, so I would have expected to see at least a few hits in the last 2 weeks. So this might be some additional information which will help you nail this down a little bit. I have a feeling that containerd has already taken care of it. That's why we are not seeing it. And CRIO hasn't yet, which is probably something to think about.
Maybe we can go back and look at containerd and see if there's a patch there revolving around this. Okay.
Yeah. So at least after CRI, and we switch to using Docker shim, and also we have like the containerd product usage. I didn't see this problem. At least didn't report to me. And in the past, I see this a lot. That's for sure. So we spend a lot of time. If you dig into the old bug, you can see a lot, tons of those people report this one. And so we even have to, in the production support, we have to work around that issue.
Yeah, there's a few things that I've seen, like, for example, there's another bug that was reported with like showing similar issues with like a race on volume teardown when you have like a pod like created and then quickly deleted. And I don't know if those are specific to one runtime, but just seeing that there's like, I think there was also another PR that I reviewed for a similar bug. And so this is my worry, is that there's an issue with this kube runtime manager code.
So there's another bug. If you relate to the one that's more related node shutdown, right? So try to working on the node shutdown, unexpected shutdown, and how to force to detach or wallet, and then the many other some related issue. So there's a couple proposal, couple cap opened and try to address that problem. And also, I believe David Porter do the node shutdown, also touch base some of that, but not all. But to me, that is a slight different from this problem. This problem is more like what we know, how we are going to make the file system operation, because it's not the atomic. And it is by design, it is to have this problem. Then how the application layer, user space layer, to manage, to working on the mitigate that risk condition on the between of the system calls. So this one we saw that a lot in the earlier Kubernetes stage. I just want to through here, and Sergey, when you look at the containerd, have you seen the problem also? I'm not sure.
I haven't seen reports of this problem, but yeah, I will take closer look. We'll keep an eye for sure.
Sure.
Thanks, Don. I think go to the next one.
Thanks for report this one, but we need to stay closer on this one. The most concern is it's not regression. Hope it's not regression in the 1.20. So that's why I want, and thanks for report, and we need to pay extra attention. If there's no regression, and I think we need to look at quite hopefully and to drill down into the detail like the. Okay, Andrew, do you want to talk about the checkpoint restore?
Yes, I can do that. So hi. I've been working on checkpoint restore in Kubernetes since about last summer, and I opened a cap some time ago. I did a minimal implementation, and then there was the first feedback that it would have been nice. It would be nice to have a complete, final, end-to-end implementation available for easier review. So that's what I'm currently working on. And my first implementation, or the first thing I tried to touch with checkpoint restore, because there's this pod migration issue open since 2015. So it's something people talk about for some years, and my idea was to get for reviewers to get an overview of an end-to-end implementation. I'm currently trying to implement it as part of Drain. So you can say kubectl Drain checkpoint, and all the running containers will be checkpointed, and then you reboot your node or whatever, and upon reboot and kubelet restart, all the containers will be restored again. I currently have this almost working, so the containers are back up after reboot. I just have still some metadata issues because the containers are running, but then the kubelet kills them because it doesn't know them yet. So I think the hard technical problems are solved there. And one of the feedbacks I got from my different tickets and pull requests I opened was to bring the checkpoint restore discussion here to this meeting. And that's basically what I wanted to do, to give people a chance to maybe ask me directly something if there's some obvious questions someone has, which is easier to answer here than in one of the pull requests or tickets. So I just wanted to be here for people to ask questions if there's something you want to know about my work here. Any questions so far?
Andrew, this is I'm looking for this. I'm waiting for people to update this feature for long, but I want to have some basic question. Please forgive me for the EU question. So how I haven't looked at your cap yet, but how this is going to work with the controller or scheduler? That's kind of the important things. Have we discussed with like the control plan, and also so to create off like more clear of the use cases using this feature?
Can you ask it again, maybe?
For example, this feature could be incorporated with the deployment. This feature also could be incorporated with the upgrade, right? What's the upgrade story? And so because today's upgrade, at least what we told the upgrade, we are not doing the in-place upgrade. So at least I think the SIG Node, open source SIG Node didn't implement in-place upgrade. So you are going to, we are suggest you are send a signal. You are going to shut down the node, and then you are going to do the surge upgrade, all those kind of things. So this can help. Right? So like even you shut down the, you basically don't need the code shutdown of the workload. You can migrate to another new node, which is have the new version, and reduce of the migration or upgrade the cost. So this is really cool feature. So this is exactly the reason when we first start, we said let's not focus on the in-place upgrade. Let's see what we can do with the checkpoint. But did we work with those story yet? Do we have like the pick up one use cases and thinking about the checkpoint and restore and the feature? And here it is the end-to-end description and like the top level CUG if you want to using this feature.
Yes, so one of my problems is that the topic is huge. So when a pod is running and you start about automatic migration from one node to another, it gets really complicated. And that's one of the reason I first looked at the drain scenario, because this is basically what it happens when the user says, I want to shut down the node and I want to restore it. And it has very little, at least how I understand, very little policy or scheduling implications, because it happens when the node is shut down and it comes back when the node is restored. And my idea is if we can find an initial implementation which is acceptable to get merged into Kubernetes, then it is easier to start discussing about migration policies, if I understood you correctly. So how can a container or a pod migrate from one system to another? And that's the reason why I selected the drain use case, because it's user triggered, or I don't know, the node is shut down, so it's somehow, but it's not, there's no scheduling involved or anything more complicated. It's just, I'm afraid it's so much code I have to dump in my PR, and I think it's already now, it feels already really big and hard to review. So I'm trying to find a minimal implementation which gives an overview what it does and what could happen if this is integrated in Kubernetes, but it still gives the reviewers the possibility to review it and understand what I'm changing there.
Got it. That totally makes sense. So is there any way doing that earlier prototyping and you found there's the current Kubernetes or Kubernetes at least and the CLI, they preserve, some have like the local node dependency to break this checkpoint. Because to really make the checkpoint and restore work, you cannot have like the local dependency, right? Local node dependency, at least make that have to abstract. So I'm just wondering, is the current node implementation include of the Kubernetes and the CLI, Docker, container.io? Have you seen any like you want node, SIG node or node community can help you to remove of the dependency so far?
I'm not sure. So you are right. If there is a dependency on the node, then it's not possible. And the checkpointing used below, which is based on CREU. So whenever the dependency on the node is a dependency on a certain hardware device, then you basically cannot checkpoint, restore, or migrate it because you depend on the hardware state of it. So if it's, I don't know, some kind of accelerator or I don't know, then it's not possible. What I know from working on checkpoint restore on for example Podman, what we do there is if you have a volume mounted into the container, then we either remount it upon restore, or if it's I think it's called a named volume. Then the named volume is included in the checkpoint and restored later with the container when you restore it. So that's the thing how we deal with dependencies. So if it's a hardware dependency, then it doesn't work at all. If it's a storage dependency, then if the storage directory device is available on the destination node, it's doable. And if it's if the storage volume is included in the container, then it's also doable. That's the thing what I can say about dependencies right now.
Cool, that's great. So how do you want to move to next step? How we can help here?
Okay, so my goal is currently to get the pod restore on kubelet start working. I think this will take maybe about 2 or 3 weeks to have it in a form I can update my pull request. And I already split out the CRI API changes into a separate pull request. And if there's consensus that this is a feature which will be merged or can be merged into Kubernetes, then I think the point to help me move it forward would be somehow to get the CRI API changes reviewed and merged in, so I can get my patches for cry-o and cry control merged, which depends on these API changes. And once the API changes are all there and implemented, the pull request to actually implement the feature in Kubernetes would be the next step. Initially, I thought that's how I would like to do it, but then there was the comment that it would be nice to see the end-to-end implementation before merging the CRI API changes. But I think the implementation will take much longer to review than the CRI API changes. So I would just come back here to the meeting when I think I'm ready to have the final API changes reviewed, bring it up once more here to the meeting. And if the group is okay with it, to moving this forward, and if the API changes make sense, then I think this would be the way for me to move forward. If the API changes can be merged, all the other work on top of it can continue from there.
Anyone have any concern and suggestion, feedback on this one?
Hi, Adrian. This is Ritesh. Thanks for bringing this. I think I'm the one who have made this. Quick couple of questions. Currently, it looks like with the drain approach, the checkpoint is tied to a node, and there is this extra step of moving that checkpoint to a different node and then restoring it. Do you think of a way to make it seamless, like how current the whole container images are stored and how you could so seamless that pod could run on any node?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up for me. I only hear half of your words. I don't know if it's just me or.
I also couldn't hear very well.
Can you guys hear me now?
Your voice quality is pretty bad. Ritesh. Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can now. Yeah.
I switched off the video. Maybe that was the issue. So yeah. So my question was, currently it looks like a checkpoint is tied to a node. Once it's checkpointed, that particular checkpoint is available in that particular node. And the extra step involved is to move the checkpoint to a different node, like even in case of drain, and then only you can restore it. I was just juxtaposing it with the whole container, how it is so seamless. The image is available in the registry in some central location, and you could always like when you are draining it, it looks seamless, like the pod could be running in different node, and you wouldn't notice that. Question to Adrian, maybe, I don't know if you had given a thought of could this be made possible, maybe not in phase 1, but in the future, or the checkpoint would be stuck with the node itself, and we might have to think about moving it to a different node in order to restore there.
So I still had trouble understanding you, sorry. Did anyone else get it? And
I can help, maybe try to rephrase
okay.
what he. So basically what he asked is similar what I initially asked. So have you talked about the control plane, how to make that is end-to-end user experience? Like I threw some couple use cases earlier, right? So can we do that? So you kind of try to you answer my question actually, but what he follow up is more like to say, oh, right now we know how to check a point, and this container doing the dream cases, and so, but there's the never have like the restore process, how we are going to restore, and so maybe it's the possible. So he just asked you, have you thinking about is this is checkpoint and can be restored on the target node? Sorry, and Ritesh, that is what I understand when you say that. Your question is kind of the similar question, but to follow up even more without like the what I asked for, how Kubernetes end-to-end management, container orchestration. Do we talk about scheduling, talk about the control plane? He basically is like more smaller, say like the, okay, checkpoint, you already checkpoint, that is ready during the dream. Can we have like the way to restore to like the target node? Like I choose one target node, can I restore that one? Still is the end-to-end use cases, but to prove this entire of the story.
So it's a question how you can move a checkpoint from one system to another one? Is that something like? Yes.
Yes. Yes.
This is something I actually don't know because I'm missing the background how it could look like to, because right now what I get is it's basically your tar archive which I get on disk, and from my previous knowledge with container engines, not orchestration, you just copy the tar archive from one system to another one and then you restore it. I'm unfortunately I don't know how to move something in a Kubernetes cluster from one node to another node. This is not something I'm currently have any idea how that works. So this would be something where I would need help from someone. I think I heard something about mentioning a registry so that the checkpoint could be pushed to a registry. This is probably doable, and I haven't worked a lot with Containerd, but I think Containerd has something where they combine a container image with a checkpoint and are able to push it to a registry. At least I think I read about it. So a registry would be something, and where how this could work, but also a shared file system. But I think I'm not aware how to correctly solve it right now. But my assumption is that this shouldn't be such a hard problem in the end to solve. And if we are once at a point where we actually can do migration, I think, or at least that's my assumption, that it should be doable somehow to move data from one node to another with some mechanism, but which I'm not aware right now how to do it.
Yeah.
I can say something. So basically there was a presentation 2 years ago at the Linux Plumbers Conference, and I think Pavel and Radosław were describing the task migration in Google's work, which is using the page server. So we can basically use the same mechanism we currently have with the tar archive, but we only save the state of the process without migrating the memory pages, and then use the page server, for example, to migrate the memory pages. What do you think about this?
You're right. There was this presentation from Google how they use container migration internally, and they used first something which is not a POSIX file system, and then they had some additional layers, and the year after that they reported that they're using some streaming mechanism to stream the checkpoint somewhere and later restore it.
Yeah,
but it sounds like an additional service which would need to be set up, but this is definitely something which could be a solution for this. But I think there are many possibilities, and right now it feels like too far away in the future. I think it's important to think about it, but it doesn't. As I said, it doesn't sound like an unsolvable problem to exchange data between two nodes, and maybe it will get clearer over time, at least. But in the end, I'm not. I don't know the storage backend good enough to give a real answer here right now.
Yeah. So Andrew, I totally agree with you. It's maybe that scope is too big, and until we prove we can do that, right? So like if I give you 2 nodes and there's the container running, and we just say, oh, we can checkpoint, and then I can on purposely restore that running container and to another node. So all the other discussing control plane and end-to-end can be followed. It's just too big at this moment, and because too many policies to solve. So, but can we still have like the keep this scope? I saw that when we first talked, and we did mention that Kubernetes have like add some like the small flag and say, oh, this can be checkpoint. And then can we build some tool like to say, oh, this is being checkpoint, and can we restore on some node? It's not like the container, like the Kubernetes do the orchestration automated, right? So let's not have this one ignore. And at least we have E2E test or some demo cases. I checkpoint and all the container running on this node. I want to successfully and restore this one to another node, which it is have the same version and the Kubernetes and have the same OS and all this and same size, like capacity. So if we can do this one, I think it is good things. Then we can talk about more, because this is direct. So then we can talk about
definitely.
Yeah. So let's make the scope is smaller. So next, right now, just give you 2 identical nodes and roughly identical nodes. And can we prove, have a demo cases or some E2E test, and we can checkpoint and restore on another identical, roughly identical node. So then I personally really looking forward this move forward. I just want to say that. And the reason I asked no code node dependency, because I try to avoid Kubernetes. Because from day one when we design Kubernetes API and the node, we try to don't have too much no code dependency, because we think about the checkpoint restore from day one. And Borg have to spend a really long time to remove those no-code dependencies. So that's why I know that one. So then we can make that restore work. So that's why I have concern earlier. So, and I ask you, do we can help you to remove those dependency here? So let's make the scope and smaller, and then we can demo and to the community, this team, and also bigger community. And I think many people will come up with the use cases. And so that's the value here. So just any other?
We, I think, have 3 minutes left.
Yes.
Adrian and Don, regarding the previous topic, so it probably would be good to limit this demo to the pods which doesn't consume the volumes and doesn't consume the devices. Because like checkpoint and restore of a container is not enough if we are talking about any other external resource which your workload consumes.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. Sure. We need to find a reviewer for your CRI related and Kubernetes CRI tool related of topic change, and we need to find the reviewer. And maybe we can follow up offline on this one. And then looking forward, you come back to give the demo and make a progress. And let's talk about what's the target release. And separately, we only have the 2 minutes. We have 2 topics. And sorry about that. Thanks, Elena. Check time. So Windows.
I can go real quick. I'll keep these general. The first is kind of a class of issues. So this is just a specific, like the issue I linked to is just a specific kind of example of this. But as we're kind of maturing the Windows platform more and more, we're seeing that there's some fundamental differences in even the OCI spec about how Windows and Linux containers are managed. And so in this case, the way that you attach a device to a container is a lot different. And I was just kind of looking for some general feedback about the best way to bring these discussions up to the community and who to involve in these discussions. Should we create issues or open kind of some work in progress PRs to start discussions? And who in SIG Node is the right kind of audience for some of these CRI specific changes?
In overall, regarding device support, you might want to join the Container Orchestrated Devices Working Group on the SIG runtime and CNCF and bring the Windows use cases. We desperately need web discussion there as well.
Okay, I will make note of that to do that. Is there anybody kind of from SIG Node who would help be able to rationalize some of the discussions here? We've noticed that like some aspects of the CRI, particularly the security contexts, are pretty well segregated. They're all have like Linux specific names, and with I think the intention of eventually having the Windows ones coming. But we're seeing a lot of the other parts of the CRI just have like the generic defaults are kind of Linux influenced. So
Mark, I'm going to ask Yuji and Nantao to see if they can help on this one, because I understand your concern. Yeah, so it's kind of like the people have to understand the CRI and also have some understanding about the Windows container, and also have some understanding for other area that can help here. So that's why I heard your concern. So I will ask those two and see if they have the bandwidth to help you to move forward on here.
Okay, and I did try and link to the OCI specs for the differences there. And then the next quick topic is that we have 2 KEPs that we're hoping to start some implementation on. One is the Windows Privileged Container KEP that was initially kind of proposed in 120, and we didn't make progress on that due to a lot of networking concerns. I think all of the overlap between SIG Node has largely remained the same. So it would be good to see if we can get somebody to take a look at that. And the next KEP is one that is already kind of implemented in OpenShift, but the folks from Red Hat want to upstream it. So that would also be something we'd appreciate getting some reviews on.
Yes.
And if possible, I also will be really quick. It's practically just an announcement. Like a few months ago, we were talking about devices which like can be used in non-privileged containers or non-root, where we uncovered the situation where container runtimes are copying permissions from the host OS. So based on previous discussions, we have proof of concept patches available, document updated, issue updated. All the people who previously participated in this document also pinged it. But if somebody else wants to review it, comments are more than welcome.
So, yeah, thanks. And we have one topic related to non-root access, and we unfortunately we run out of time. Yeah, and can we switch to continue that conversation next week?
Well, if it will be something to discuss, yes, but my intention was to show the link to the people to the document and ask to review. That's it.
Okay, thanks.
Can you send an email to the mailing list so that way people will see it?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. That's all for today. Today's B-Day day. And thank you and everyone, and see you next week. And please, I'm going to follow up on another topic at the Slack. Thanks. Bye, everyone. Have a good day.